Alright, good morning everybody. How we doing? Good. My name's Glen, this is Brian, and we're two keepers here at Busch Gardens, and some of the animals we have the pleasure of working with are the American alligators here. Now you guys picked a good talk to come to because this is one of the 2 times a week that we feed the alligators, so we're going to be feeding the alligators here in just a couple minutes. These guys in the wild, we get asked a lot what they eat. They eat a lot of turtles and fish. Turtles and fish make up 80% of their diet. And another common question we get is, since we have so many turtles and fish in here, do the alligators eat the turtles and fish? And the easy answer is no. If you look at the alligators, they're all lined up right by the turtles. Most of the time they leave the turtles alone. They're so used to us feeding them, and they enjoy chicken and stuff much better than the turtles and fish that they just wait for us to feed them. So you're much more likely to see the turtles riding around on the alligators' backs than you are to see them get crunched down. So they're pretty safe. Now, another question we get is, what do we feed them? We feed them 3 different things we like to rotate. We feed them chicken, fish, and sausage. The sausage is made here on site. It's red meat mixed in with a commercial alligator pellet. We mix that together, put it in a sausage casing. It smells awful, but they love it. So, and then the fish is either a mullet, usually mullet, or some other kind of freshwater fish that we have here. And then chicken is the same stuff that you buy in the grocery store. It's raw, they eat all the bones and everything. We usually give them quarters or halves. So today they're going to be getting fish, probably the least favorite out of those 3, but we do have a little bit of leftover chicken that our crocodiles didn't eat this morning, so they'll get some of that too. But alright, well the way we do this is we're going to blow a call and let them know that we have food for them, and they're going to line up right here. Some of them are already starting to line up. This is their dinner table. It's a bit of a shelf under the water there. They line up right there. And then Brian and I will start feeding on either end. We move from one end to the middle so that everybody gets it, and we try to minimize the amount of fights between food. And basically they're letting us know, these guys right here, that if we had food, they would take it, so they're all ready for us. Now, Florida's a very interesting place. It's one of the few places in the world where alligators and crocodiles actually coexist. A lot of people don't know that we have crocodile here. Everybody knows about the American alligator. We also have the American crocodile. The American crocodile is much lower in numbers than the American alligator. The American alligator in Florida has somewhere between 1.5 and 2 million individuals in the state of Florida, whereas the American crocodile is somewhere more around 2,000, so quite a bit less. Now there's a few different ways to tell the difference between alligator and crocodiles. Anybody know any? Anybody?
Their nose.
Very good. What's your name? Casey? Casey. Very good, Casey. The snout. If you look at the snouts, alligators have a much more rounded, kind of U-shaped snout, whereas crocodiles have more of a pointed A or V-shaped snout. That's a real good way to tell the difference. That works when they're young, when they're old. So that's a really good way to tell the difference between the 2. Another one is color. If you look at our adult alligators, they're kind of one uniform, kind of dull charcoal gray color, whereas crocodiles, even when they're young, both alligators and crocodiles have kind of a pattern on them, but the alligators grow out of that and they get that uniform color on them. Crocodiles retain that kind of pattern with camouflage that has lots of greens and yellows and all kinds of other stuff. They tend to be much lighter than alligators as well. Another one is water. What do you guys think this is? Freshwater or saltwater? These are alligators.
Fresh.
Freshwater. Yep. Alligators spend almost their entire lives in freshwater. If there is any kind of body of water in Florida that's freshwater, there's a good chance there's an alligator in it. They're in all kinds of freshwater. Whereas crocodiles, they spend most of their time in brackish and saltwater. Brackish is sort of a mix of fresh and saltwater with a much higher salt content than freshwater. So they spend most of their time in saltwater and brackish water. Crocodiles have a gland in their throat. They're able to excrete salt out of their system, whereas alligators don't. So that's another good way to tell the difference. And lastly, size. If you look at our alligators here, we have 2 males and then 1 female here to your right. This is about as big as they get. They really don't get much bigger than this. Our males are about 12 and a half feet long, and our females are somewhere between 8 and 9 feet, probably closer to 8 feet. So they don't get a whole lot bigger than that. They might reach about 14 feet. Whereas crocodiles can reach quite a bit larger. The American crocodile can reach somewhere around 20 feet, so quite a bit longer. And then even in Australia, the saltwater crocodiles, they can get up to 25 feet, so they can get pretty long. Now I said these guys, you can tell the difference between a male and female by their size. That works when they're adults. A good way to tell how long an alligator is, when you can only see its head, which is often what you see in the water, is you take a distance between their nostrils and their eyes, and you take that in inches and you equate those inches to feet. So our male right there is about 12 and a half inches between its snout and its eyes. So it's about 12.5 feet. And then same thing with the female, somewhere roughly about 8 inches to 8.5 inches, so she's about 8 to 8.5 feet. Now it doesn't work perfectly, but it gives you a good idea about how big they are. Alrighty, we're gonna go ahead and feed. I know you guys are clamoring to see that. We're gonna go just do a little duck call and we'll call them over. After that, we're gonna open up the floor to any questions you guys have, and we'll do that in a minute.
Do you see him over there?
Oh, look at him.
Here he comes.
They're already ready. Mira que se viene ya saliendo, ¿no? See this carton? Oh, here he comes.
Wow. You good to go, kiddo? See any more?
Yeah? Look.
They ain't scared. They ain't even scared of. What do you think about now? Like, pretty sharp to me. And those are what kind of fish?
They look like mullet. Look at a little turtle wants a little snack too. Yeah.
What do you think about those teeth?
Yeah, they look pretty sharp. They need more fish with them crocodiles. It's pretty weak. That's a big pop. Oh, yeah.
I'd want to be the guy feeding them.
Oh, yeah, come on.
I wouldn't eat.
Yeah, for sure. They're big and they're fast.
I want to be so good feeding them.
We're giving them chicken.
Pretty cool, huh, guys?
Yeah.
Do you have any questions I can answer for you about the alligators, about crocodiles, anything, any other reptiles in the park? How much they eat a day is a good question. They don't eat every day, so they only eat twice a week at their most, which is in the summer right now. Trying to kind of winding that down. Probably in a couple weeks we'll cut that down to once a week. They'll be fed every Saturday. And in the winter, from about Thanksgiving to mid-March, they don't eat at all. We don't feed them. It gets too cold for them, believe it or not, here in Tampa. Once the temperature drops below about 50, they have a hard time digesting food because they're what's called ectothermic or cold-blooded. So they need to get their body temperature up in order to digest their food. They can't keep a constant body temperature like we do. They depend on the outside temperature to keep their metabolism going. So basically they go through sort of a semi-hibernation. It's called a torpor state, where they don't really go to sleep, but they really slow down a lot and they stop eating for those 4 or 5 months. Their diet, here we feed them fish, chicken, and sausage. In the wild they eat a lot of smaller things. Everybody kind of thinks of them as taking down big prey. They eat a lot of turtles and fish, make up about 80 to 90% of their diet. Other things are some of the smaller mammals that come down and eat by the water. Believe it or not, they eat snails and shrimp and anything they can get their little jaws on. So they're real opportunistic. Any other questions, guys?
What's the largest?
What's the largest one in here? All our males are about 12 and a half feet, somewhere in that range. The largest male that weighs probably somewhere around 800 pounds in here. So these guys are pretty portly, they're well taken care of, and they're pretty spoiled. So they can get pretty big. They tend not to get very big in the wild anymore. They don't have the resources they used to. They don't have the space they used to. I think the largest one on record is about 19 feet. I think the largest one in Florida was somewhere between 17 and 18 feet. So, but you rarely see anything much over, 12 at these days because they just don't have the resources and the space to get that big anymore. There are much more alligators. We do have the American crocodile here. They don't really come up to Tampa. They stay where it stays warm, more there in the southern, so around Miami and Naples and that area, even into the Florida Keys. You're going to see much more likely to see them down there. We have about 2 million alligators here. There's about 2,000 crocodiles in the state of Florida, so far less. But we do have both. One of the few places in the world where there actually are both alligators and crocodiles. Alligators and crocodiles, there's a few differences. Size, alligators tend to be a lot smaller, not much bigger than 12, 14 feet for the males. Crocodiles can get much larger, into the 20, 25 feet, quite a bit heavier too. Main difference is the snout. If you look at the snout, alligators have kind of a rounded U-shaped snout, and crocodiles have more of a sharp V, narrow A-shaped kind of snout. Those are two good ways to tell the difference. Yeah, go ahead.
What kind of fish did you feed them?
We fed them mullet, the kind of fish here. It's probably, of the 3 things we feed them, it's probably their least favorite, but we like to rotate their diet so they get a nice
Is that why they
balanced
weren't
diet.
jumping for them?
Oh yeah, and like I said, they're starting to go into their slower time. We're going to start feeding them once a week instead of twice a week, so.
They didn't seem very hungry.
Yeah, they don't have to come over. The ones that want to eat, they'll come over. Usually in the summer, especially towards the beginning of the summer, they'll eat a ton, and then they'll start slowing down a lot right about now. And like I said, in winter we stop feeding them altogether. So they're starting to slow down. They probably ate pretty well on Tuesday when we fed them last, so that's probably why they didn't eat a whole lot. And like I said, fish is their least favorite. So.
Yeah. Feed the turtles too?
We do feed the turtles. We feed the turtles every day throughout the winter as well. They keep eating. They do not really eat the turtles. They leave the turtles alone. They'd rather us feed them. So once in a while, just out of probably chance, they'll crunch down on a turtle. But I know somebody that's been here for 30 some odd years and he's only seen it a couple times. So it really doesn't happen very often.
Do they come out of the water?
The